What if I told you that the very thing you were desperately chasing every single day, comfort, ease, a life without pain, is the very thing that is slowly, systematically killing your spirit and making you fundamentally weak? Forget all the modern self-help cliches. What if the real secret to becoming mentally, emotionally, and spiritually unstoppable was actually forged over 2.00 years ago by a Roman emperor in the middle of a war? A secret, powerful weapon for your mind that is more relevant today than ever before. This is not about feeling good, this is about becoming powerful. Today, we are unlocking 8 brutal, unapologetic Stoic laws that will force you to level up, to burn away your weakness, and to build an unbreakable will. This is not just another video. This is your wake-up call. Let's be brutally honest. Most people today are living in a state of quiet defeat, and it's not because they lack talent. It's not because they lack opportunity. It's because they fundamentally lack mental strength. We endlessly scroll. We compare our lives to the curated fictions of others. We envy, and then we have the audacity to wonder why we feel so stuck, so weak, so utterly lost. We chase after comfort, yet we feel perpetually exhausted. We try to avoid pain at all costs, yet we suffer daily from our own anxieties and fears. The truth is hard, but it is necessary. Our modern obsession with comfort is killing us slowly. While real, meaningful struggle, though it can be harsh, holds within it the very seed of our real, unshakable power. And here's the twist. The ancient Stoics knew this long before we had smartphones, social media, or an endless library of self-help books. Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman emperor and one of the most profound Stoic philosophers, once wrote to himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's not just a nice, inspiring quote. That is a weapon. It is a mindset. It is a way to live in the very heart of chaos and remain completely, utterly unshaken. Stoicism doesn't promise to make your life easy. It promises to make you unstoppable. In this video, we are diving deep into 8 brutal Stoic laws that will force you to level up mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I'm not talking about inspirational fluff or feel-good platitudes. I'm talking about real talk, for real, lasting change. Each of these laws is drawn from the raw, unfiltered truth of Stoic wisdom, battle-tested in the brutal arenas of ancient Rome, and still painfully, powerfully relevant today. But before we begin, I need you to do one thing. If you are truly serious about your own growth, don't just sit back and passively watch this like it's another motivational clip. This is not background noise. This is your personal wake-up call. I want you to like this video right now. I want you to drop a comment as we go through, especially when a particular point hits you hard. And most importantly, do not skip any part of this video, because even one missed law could cost you the very clarity or courage you need in a moment that truly matters most. Let's begin. Brutal law number 1. You must embrace discomfort like a friend. We have been relentlessly taught by modern culture to run from pain, to avoid it at all costs. But the Stoics, those ancient warriors of the mind, taught the exact opposite. You must learn to run toward it. With your eyes wide open, think about the greatest moment of growth in your entire life. Did it happen when you were comfortable, when you were relaxed, when everything was easy and going your way? Or did it happen when life metaphorically punched you in the face, and you were forced to make a choice, rise or stay broken? Marcus Aurelius faced devastating wars, political betrayal, widespread plague, and personal illness, and he still managed to lead with a profound and steady calm. He didn't avoid his discomfort, he invited it to shape him, to forge him into a better man. As he famously wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That's not just poetic fluff, That is a fundamental law of the universe. Every obstacle becomes a chance to sharpen your will. Every frustrating delay becomes a test of your patience. Every painful rejection becomes a powerful teacher of your own resilience. Modern life constantly tells us, avoid pain at all costs. But Stoicism whispers back a deeper truth. Train for it. That cold shower you've been avoiding, that's a test. That difficult, honest conversation you need to have, that's the path. That gym session you want to skip because you're exhausted, that is the very moment where your character is being carved out of stone. The Stoics believed that by consciously, deliberately choosing controlled discomfort, you actively prepare yourself for the uncontrollable chaos of life, so that when the real storm inevitably hits, you are already built for it. The great Stoic Seneca would practice sleeping on the floor, eating only the plainest food, and wearing old, rough clothes for days at a time, not out of some self-hatred, but as a form of profound self-training. Why? Because then, when life itself inevitably strips away your comfort, you are not shocked, you are not broken, you are ready. And here's the truth. Discomfort is not your enemy, it is your mirror. It shows you who you really are, and more importantly, who you are in the process of becoming. We avoid the small, necessary pain of discipline today, only to suffer the much bigger, more devastating pain of regret tomorrow. But if you can learn to lean into the fire, to walk through it with awareness, something wild and powerful happens. You stop fearing the pain. And that, my friends, is the very beginning of true freedom. From now on, I want you to see discomfort like a sparring partner. It might bruise you a little, but it is undeniably building you. Choose one small, voluntary discomfort today and master it. No debate, no excuses. Take the cold shower, have the deep talk, sit with your boredom without reaching for your phone, and remind yourself, this is how warriors are forged. Because the only way to become truly unstoppable is to stop running. Brutal law number 2. Stop being owned by your emotions. How often do your own emotions completely control your day? Someone says something rude to you online, and you snap. Your mood ruined for hours. Your plans change unexpectedly, and your whole internal state shifts into frustration. You feel a wave of laziness, so you skip the gym. You put off the work. You abandon your discipline. It's not just you, it's all of us, to some degree. But here's the brutal Stoic truth. If you are consistently ruled by your emotions, you are a slave to them. And the Stoics believed that slavery to your own emotions is far worse than any physical chains on your wrists. The great Epictetus, a former slave who became a revered Stoic teacher, said, "Any person capable of angering you becomes your master. They can anger you only when you permit yourself to be disturbed by them." Let that sink in for a moment. That person who cut you off in traffic this morning, you just handed them your peace of mind. That breakup you're still agonizing over, you've handed it your entire identity. That one rude comment you read online, you gave it your joy. You see, Stoicism doesn't ask you to ignore your emotions or pretend they don't exist. It teaches you to observe them, to understand them, and then to consciously respond instead of blindly reacting. The critical difference between a child and a Stoic. The child throws a tantrum when things don't go their way. The Stoic sits calmly in the middle of the storm and thinks. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man of his time, constantly wrote in his private journal, which later became the classic Meditations. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. That is the kind of profound, internal control we rarely talk about in our modern world. The power to not be shaken by things that do not deserve our precious energy. And yes, this is a brutal realization, because it means you can't blame others for your feelings anymore. You can't say, "He made me mad," or "She ruined my day." You have to face the hard truth that it's all you. The reaction, That was your choice, but here's the incredibly empowering part. You can always choose again. You don't have to be a helpless slave to your feelings. You can feel anger without having to act in anger. You can feel fear and still move forward with courage. You can feel sadness without allowing yourself to drown in it. That is real emotional strength. That is Stoic freedom. Try this simple practice. The next time you feel a powerful, negative emotion trigger within you, just pause, don't act, breathe, and ask yourself, is this feeling actually useful to me right now? Then, respond with clear intention. This isn't about being robotic, it's about being in control. When you stop being owned by your emotions, you become clear, calm, and powerful. You begin to show up in the world with a steady, grounded presence, and people notice. You don't get pushed around by every little thing anymore. You are grounded, and in today's emotionally chaotic world, that kind of stability is rare. It's magnetic, it's unstoppable. Real growth begins when you stop being a puppet and start being the master. Brutal law number 3. Life owes you nothing. Stop expecting fairness. One of the fastest, most surefire ways to live a life of perpetual suffering is to constantly expect life to be fair. Let that settle in for a second. You work incredibly hard, and someone lazier than you gets the promotion. You love someone deeply, and they walk away without a second thought. You consistently do the right thing, and you still get punished for it. And then, that hot, bitter anger begins to rise. This isn't fair, but here's the Stoic truth you must tattoo on your soul. Fairness is a myth. It's a beautiful, comforting idea we create in our minds, not an actual, governing rule of the universe. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You can commit injustice by doing nothing." Even he, the Emperor of Rome, saw profound injustice every single day. But instead of whining, blaming, or spiraling into despair, he grounded himself in one unshakable idea. Life is not about fairness. Life is about cultivating the inner strength to deal with the lack of it. The Stoics never expected life to treat them kindly. They fully expected to face pain, loss, betrayal, and constant change. And because they expected it, they were always ready for it. Let's get brutally honest. Fairness is a beautiful idea, but it can also make you incredibly weak if you cling to it too tightly. When we scream, "This isn't fair," what we are often really saying is, "I don't like how this feels, and I don't want to have to deal with it." But here's the law of growth. You don't grow by expecting fairness from the world. You grow by courageously facing reality and choosing to move forward anyway. Look around you. Bad things happen to good people. Evil people sometimes win. Hard work doesn't always equal the reward you expected. That's not a negative outlook. That's just life. Now, here's what separates the average person from the unstoppable one. The average person waits for the world to become fair. The Stoic, they build a fortress of power within themselves, so strong that nothing external, fair or not, can ever truly break them. This doesn't mean you become cold, cynical, or heartless. It means you stop waiting for the world to treat you right. And you start, with relentless discipline, treating yourself right, regardless of how the world behaves. The great Stoic Seneca once said, "Sometimes, even to live is an act of courage, especially when life seems profoundly unfair." Here's what you do. Instead of complaining about the pain, you use it as fuel. You build skills so undeniable that they can't be ignored. You learn to love deeply, but without a desperate expectation of reciprocation. You face betrayal, and you choose to walk forward with your dignity intact. The Stoic approach is one of radical responsibility, not because everything is always your fault, but because your response is always your move. You don't get to control how life hits you, but you always get to control how you respond. And that response, that grounded, calm, warrior-like response, is precisely what makes you unstoppable. Fairness is not promised to you, but your freedom to choose your responses, and that freedom is earned, one powerful, conscious choice at a time. Brutal law number 4. Focus only on what you can control, let go of the rest. The Stoics believed that all of your true power in this life lies in a very small, very specific place, the circle of things that are directly within your control. Everything outside of that circle, you must learn to let it go. The teacher Epictetus said it with perfect simplicity. Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens. Here's the insidious trap that most people fall into every single day. They desperately try to control other people's opinions. They try to predict the future. They obsess over outcomes they have no final say in. And then they wonder why they feel so anxious, so powerless, so constantly angry and frustrated. But let's break it down with cold, hard logic. What is truly 100% under your control? Your thoughts, your choices, your actions, your response to events. That's about it. Everything else, other people's opinions of you, luck, chance, the inherent uncertainty of the world, is outside your control. You can't control the weather, but you can control how you dress for it. You can't control whether other people like you, but you can control how you choose to treat them. You can't control the global economy, but you can control how much you learn, how you spend your money, and how you prepare for the future. That single shift in focus, from the external to the internal, is absolutely massive. It gives you all of your power back, instead of being pulled in 100 different directions by things you ultimately can't affect. You stand strong, centered in your own virtuous actions. Imagine you're the captain of a ship, caught in a violent storm at sea. The Stoic doesn't stand on the deck, screaming at the wind and the waves to stop. He grabs the wheel with both hands, and he navigates the ship. That is what makes you calm when others are panicking. It's what makes you focused when others are complaining. It's what makes you disciplined when others are drifting aimlessly. This isn't about pretending the outside world, the storm, doesn't matter. It's about consciously deciding what gets your precious, limited attention. And the truth is, 99% of what most people worry about is completely, utterly outside of their control. Here's a simple, powerful practice you can start today. Every single time you feel stressed or anxious, I want you to pause and ask yourself this one question: is this thing I'm worrying about right now truly within my direct control? If the answer is yes, then take action. If the answer is no, then you must practice letting it go. It's a simple question. Yes. Is it easy to practice? No. Is it powerful? Absolutely. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. And when you truly begin to live this principle, people around you will notice. You will become unshakable, not because you can control everything in the world, but because you have finally, powerfully, learned to control yourself, no matter what happens. And when you truly live this way, when you master your own circle of control, people around you will notice. You become unshakable, not because you can control everything around you, but because you so powerfully control yourself, no matter what happens. Now, let's continue with brutal law number 5. Forge an unbreakable will through voluntary hardship. In a world that is hopelessly, pathologically addicted to comfort, the disciplined practice of choosing hardship becomes a superpower. The Stoics didn't just wait for life to challenge them, they challenged themselves first. Not because they enjoyed suffering, but because they understood that this was how you strengthen the soul. Not to punish the self, but to prepare it. The great Stoic philosopher Seneca once wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, is this the condition that I feared?" This was the practice of voluntary hardship, a chosen, controlled moment of discomfort, in order to build a mind that would not crack under the uncontrollable pressure of real-world chaos. Now, think about this for a moment. Most people today avoid discomfort at all costs. They never skip a meal. They can't sit in silence for 5 minutes without reaching for their phone. They never go without some form of modern convenience. But what happens when life, as it inevitably does, gets genuinely hard? They break, they panic, they blame the world. But the Stoic has already trained for the hard days. They have already practiced being hungry, being tired, being rejected, being bored, being in a state of struggle. And that training doesn't make them invincible, it makes them profoundly adaptable. You do not build real, lasting willpower by watching a few motivational videos. You build it by doing the very thing you don't want to do. On purpose. Voluntary hardship could look like this for you. Fasting for 24 hours. Just to remind yourself that you, and not your urges, are in control. Taking that freezing cold shower, especially when your mind screams, no. Saying no to an unnecessary luxury you can easily afford. Just to sharpen your self-restraint. Waking up early to train when your warm bed is calling your name. These small, daily choices, they stack up, and over time, you become dangerous, not because you're cruel to yourself, but because you come to realize a profound truth. Comfort doesn't make you stronger, challenge does. And when real, unavoidable hardship comes, as it always does, you don't run from it. You almost smile, because you've already walked through the fire, by your own choice. Brutal law number 6. Detach from outcomes, fall in love with the process. We have been relentlessly taught by modern society to obsess over the results. Get the job, win the deal, hit the goal, earn the money, be admired. But Stoicism completely flips this script. It teaches you to detach from the final outcome and to fall deeply, passionately in love with the process. Why? Because the result of your efforts is never, ever guaranteed, but your effort itself, that is always, 100%, within your control. The great teacher Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." When you desperately cling to results, you are setting yourself up for a life of perpetual suffering. You hit the gym for a week, you don't see washboard abs, and so you quit. You launch a new project, it flops, and you feel completely worthless. You love someone, they leave, and your entire world collapses. But what if, instead, you fell in love with the work itself? The act of showing up, the process of writing, the craft of building, the discipline of learning, the sheer, raw effort, that is the Stoic path. Because when you focus on the process, you always win, even if the external result isn't what you initially imagined. And here's the beautiful, powerful kicker. Ironically, when you genuinely let go of needing a specific outcome, you often start to achieve more than you ever thought possible, because you're no longer operating from a place of desperation. You're not being driven by your fragile emotions. You're not fueled by a needy desire for external validation. You are simply, powerfully grounded in the action itself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." This means you must stop obsessing over what might happen, and just work your process, with courage and integrity. Right now, if you're a writer, your job is to write, not to go viral, but to sharpen your mind. If you're an athlete, your job is to train, not just to win the trophy, but to master your own body. If you're building something, you build, not for the applause, but for the pride you take in the effort. The moment you tie your self-worth to external outcomes, you become fragile. The moment you tie your self-worth to your discipline, your intention, and your focus, you become absolutely unstoppable. Brutal law number 7. Meditate on your death to live with urgency. Most people live their lives as if they're going to live forever. They waste incredible amounts of time. They delay their dreams. They stay stuck in bad habits and, even worse, in dead-end relationships. But the Stoics, they regularly meditated on their own death, not to be dark or morbid, but to wake themselves up. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Now, that's not a fearful statement. That is a statement of profound freedom. It's the radical realization that our time here is incredibly short, and that we don't get to choose when it ends. So, every single moment that we waste on trivialities is a moment of our life that we will never, ever get back. Let that hit you. You don't get to wait for someday. You don't get to keep telling yourself, "I'll do it later." You don't get to assume that tomorrow is guaranteed for you. The Stoics practiced something called memento mori, remember, you will die. They didn't say this to be grim. They said it to stay focused, to be present, and to act with powerful intention. Because when you truly, deeply realize that your time is limited, you stop wasting it. You stop scrolling for hours on end. You stop getting into meaningless arguments over things that don't matter. You stop tolerating mediocrity in yourself and in others. And you start creating. You start loving. You start moving. Now, not later. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." You might not control how long you get to live, but you absolutely control how deeply you live. And the most dangerous lie we tell ourselves is this: there's plenty of time. No, there isn't. That risk you keep avoiding, that business you keep postponing, that person you keep meaning to forgive, that profound change you keep saying you will make next year, this is your moment. This is your time. The Stoic doesn't ignore death. He stares it directly in the face and says, "You will not catch me sleeping on my own life." This awareness doesn't make you anxious, it makes you intensely alive. Because the person who truly remembers that they will die speaks more truthfully, loves more openly, works with greater urgency, and lets go of their petty ego. They stop fearing failure, because they realize that the only ultimate failure is a wasted life. Live like you're on borrowed time, because you are, and when you do, you become magnetic, focused, and powerful. Brutal law number 8, be a warrior for virtue, not for approval. Let's be completely honest. Most people live their lives for likes, for praise, for attention, for the applause of the crowd. But the Stoic does not move for the crowd. The Stoic moves for virtue. Marcus Aurelius said it with beautiful simplicity. Just that you do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter. In other words, you must live with honor, even if no one ever sees it. You must speak the truth, even if no one claps for you. You must keep your word, even if it costs you something. You must train hard, even when nobody's watching. That is virtue. That is what builds a soul that cannot be bought, a character that cannot be broken. And it's not about being perfect, it's about being principled. Now here's the hard part. Doing the right thing is often the hard thing. It's easier to lie. It's easier to try and impress people than to be authentic. It's easier to chase approval than it is to stand alone. But every single time you choose what is right over what is easy, you sharpen your own edge. You become someone that your future self can look back on and admire. You build an identity that no one can ever take away from you. Seneca reminds us, "I will govern my life and thoughts as if the whole world were to see the one and read the other." That is real power. That is a life that doesn't crumble under pressure, because it's built on the unshakable foundation of integrity. In a world of fleeting images, the Stoic is real. In a world of deafening noise, the Stoic is still. In a world of endless performance, the Stoic is genuine. Do you want to be unstoppable? Then don't live for praise. Live for your values. Live in a way that even if you were stripped of your status, your money, and your followers, you would still stand tall. Because the moment you stop needing the crowd's approval is often the very moment you become the kind of person they can't help but follow anyway. Be the warrior for what is right, not for what is popular, and even if you have to walk that path alone for a time, walk it like it's the only path that truly matters. If you have made it this far, it means something deep inside of you is ready to evolve, to leave behind the distractions, the weakness, the emotional chaos, and to step into something far greater. Not perfection, but power. Not domination over others, but profound mastery over yourself. That is the Stoic path. It doesn't offer you constant comfort, it offers you unwavering clarity. It offers you a clear direction. It offers you a life of deep meaning. Even when the world around you is crumbling. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, they didn't write for a world that was easy. They wrote to help us survive storms, battles, betrayals, and even death, with our dignity intact. They taught us that true strength isn't found in our muscles or our money. It's found in the man who keeps his word. The woman who faces her fear without flinching. The soul who does the right thing, especially when it's the hard thing. You don't need to wait for motivation. You don't need the perfect moment. You just need to begin. Right now, train your mind, expect struggle, detach from outcomes, hold to your principles, live like your time is running out. Because it is, and the beautiful part is, you don't need applause, you don't need praise, you don't need anyone to understand you. Because when you walk the Stoic path, you become unshakable from within. And that kind of strength, it's rare, it's real, and it is yours for the taking. If this message resonated with you, if something inside of you has been lit up, if you have felt a spark of truth, then do not keep it to yourself. Like this video, comment below with this affirmation: I am becoming unshakable. Day by day, share this video with someone who you know is on their own journey and needs to hear this. And most importantly, make sure you are subscribed to this channel, with all notifications turned on. We are building a community of thinkers, of warriors, of real ones who want more than just noise, who want to live with profound, unwavering purpose. Remember, do not skip any parts of your life. It's all training, it's all transformation. Keep showing up, keep choosing strength, and don't ever stop until you become truly unstoppable.